I'm Felicity, welcome to my coaching moment, standing in someone else's shoes. This is an experiential technique and it's really useful for understanding what's going on in a relationship with somebody else. Might be work, might be more personal. And the power is in playing it out. So you can literally spatially do this by using a room you have in your house, or you can use figures to create figuratively the scene. So there are 3 simple steps. I'll talk you through them and then I'll do a very short piece of a scenario. So this is Bill, and Bill is the boss of John. And John is the person who's working through the situation today. So the first step is to simply set the scene and get the 2 characters involved, yourself and the other person, sitting or standing as they would be or they have been in a previous conversation. So this is during a weekly meeting, and John is sitting there and facing Bill, who's got his hands in the air. So the first step is to simply replay it and replay particular words that were said by yourself and the other person, and also what was going on in your head, the thoughts and feelings. So that's step 1. Step 2 is, and this is really important to get right, you take Bill away, and now John, for step 2, has to literally take the place of, or indeed you take the place of, Bill. And what's important when you do this, round 2 of the conversation, is that you put yourself or your body in the position that the other person would hold themselves in. So if they're normally standing, or if they've got their hands in the air, if their shoulders are back, however they sit or stand, you have to recreate that. And when talking about the situation, you have to use the words I, talking about Bill here, facing John over there. So the second stage is to replay that situation, but this time you, the person in question, is going to be the other person, and you're going to adopt the body language of the other person, and you're going to simply talk through the meeting, but this time you are Bill. And you'll say things like, I'm thinking about John over here. So you need to adopt this position. And the third position is to take a neutral outsider's position. So let's just put him here. And in this position, he's going to be looking at Bill and John, having this conversation. We can even put Bill back in the meeting there. And in this third position, again, the same conversation, but this time at a neutral distance, and trying to work out, what do I now notice about the dynamic in that situation? So very briefly, the kind of things that might come out, and this is loosely based on 2 or 3 coaching conversations I've had in the last year, is in the first position, not a huge amount comes out because John knows the situation. He's being shouted at by his boss. He's being given huge amounts of work. He's not quite sure what any of his objectives are. He doesn't know how to be successful, and he's feeling in his head, I'm just not good enough. I'm worried I'm going to lose my job. Why doesn't he value me? I never get any good feedback. I only hear you have to do more and more and more. So that's kind of first position. Second position, when John becomes Bill, what he notices is, and I'll put his hands up, that actually Bill is in his head thinking, I'm under huge pressure. My boss is at me every day to do more and more and more with less resources. And I know John is a really great person in my team. I know that he's someone who can get stuff done. And as I tell him we need to do more, he's not saying anything. He's not complaining. So I'm just hoping and assuming, because I just can't do it all myself, that actually he'll be able to get it done. Because I'm completely stressed up to my eyeballs, and working from home is incredibly stressful. I'm worried about my family, particularly worried about my dad, and I'm just doing everything I can to keep everything afloat. That might be the second position. And in the third position, what John notices is actually they're both under a huge amount of pressure. It's a really similar situation. And what he also notices is that his boss is a really good performer and that he's a really good performer, and they both know that they're really good at their jobs and they're both really resilient. But what they're not doing is connecting or acknowledging each other. This one is simply feeding that pressure down the chain, down that organisational chain from here to there. And so now there's some real insights that can be worked on to help John, arguably manage upwards, manage his boss, Bill. So that in a nutshell is standing in someone else's shoes. Try it out and see what useful insights you get, particularly from second position and third position.